set of Kihon practice techniques to teach basic fundamentals, but you can adapt them to anything. Look at these mainly, I look at these mainly as a diagnostic system in which you can measure where your feet are relative to him, measure the distance between you and relative to your partner, see whether or not you've got unbendable arms, or whether you're trying to plant your feet and do stuff like this too much, at the wrong time. And there's nothing wrong with doing this at the right time, but sometimes people tend to do only this all the time, and sometimes that just doesn't fit. So you have to be able, so it helps build flexibility, be able to do same hand, same foot with unbendable arm. It helps to build flexibility to make tiny movements where the elbow may be bent. So all this stuff is really an exercise, but it's primarily to serve as a self-diagnostic and to teach you when he grabs to move and wait as long as you can, because the earlier I grip, whether I'm doing this from here, whether I'm on the same side, I'm coming up and doing this, the earlier I grip, the more it telegraphs my intention to him, because the second a decent player feels me start to do this, his subconscious mind should be well enough trained to react to that. You have to look at it as a button. When I do this, there should be a button inside his subconscious mind going off that says, you're getting ready to do something. So you want to delay this as long as you can, and also recognize that you got it. So if I'm coming around and doing this third one here, wait a long time and see how long I waited, and look where I am. I'm behind, the other arm can't reach me. So a lot of this also is to try to build some kind of awareness through moving around in big movements of what his other arm is doing. Because if he's a skilled player, if I do this motion here, and I come around, I try to grab too soon, that left hand at this point, before I'm fully into him, should already turn around and maybe not punch the ribs. That's not my preference, because I broke my hand once in karate, so I never punched since then. You don't want a broken bone in your hand when you're in a fight. I've been there, done that, not a good idea. But he'll take the elbow out. He'll smash your elbow. Or if the elbow's not available, because my arm's down here, I'm going to have a hand on the side of my head. I'm going to get clocked and thrown all the way across the run. So a lot of this is really designed to teach you to move and stay away from that hand until they can't do anything to you. It's teach you to move and neutralize that hand so you can't get to me with the other hand. So it's really to teach positional geometry. So let's look at the last two grips with that kind of refresher in the back of our mind. So for this release motion, if you remember, we're going cross grip, outside, inside. And then we're doing same side, mirror image. Now we're doing on the inside. So we're working whoever hand is up, I can have cross grip. This is the first set. The second set is there. Now the third one is here. Now we're all working on this. You grab the back of my hand, and the release motion it teaches to put the guy in point is to move and put him on points where he can't do anything. All I've got to do to throw him is very little movement, but I've got to learn where that perch point is. I've got to put him on the edge of the cliff. So now if I come through, I start the movement, and if I turn too far, then he's got the hand, but now I can't use my left hand, so I want to use both hands. So I come to here and move and pick this up, and now I'm moving this my attention. So let's go back and look at this again. So the arm is very strong this way, because that's the way the grip, your grip is strong if you go in a straight line. But the second I change the geometry of the angle, I'll make little tiny steps here, don't move your feet. As I change the geometry of the angle, it weakens his grip to the point to where it eventually just pulls out all by itself. It can't stop me. I don't care how strong the grip is. The hand is just not built and designed to have enough flex in the wrist to where he can have a strong grip back here. I can just simply, he can't hang on. So I have to move the point to where I'm in this position, and now I grab at this point and the hand pops off. So let's go back and look at this with the idea of the too early grip. If I move to here and I go, what's he going to do? He's going to do something to me. He's going to throw me down. He's going to push me across. Or the hand comes up, I got the hand in the face again. Remember, the hand always goes to the face until me consistent. I don't care what you do. If you got a free hand, the hand always goes to the face. That's just my rule of thumb. It always goes to the face, because if I'm doing this, or I'm grabbing him, or he's grabbing me, and that hand's down there, I should always, every single time. And if I come up and he tries to throw a punch, if he grabs me and tries to throw a punch, he can't get the punch off. Or if I can't get the face. So the free hand is always engaged. You never have a dead hand. Ever, ever, ever. Conversely, he doesn't have a dead hand either. So everything I'm doing here, move. Get away from that hand. Take control. Now his other hand is obsolete and can't do anything. So this is the next grip. I move. I want to break his off balance a little bit in that direction, perpendicular to his feet. To get him under slow down under control. I want to break his posture down. I want to move, grab late, pick up my toes, and try. Or not throw, based on your position with everybody else, you don't hit somebody. So try that for a few minutes. We'll do the last one, then we'll go back and review everything, and I'll show you some oddities in here to give you some various views of how some of the stuff actually fits together. How does it fit? Let's look at the next one. Let's look at the next one, and then I'll let you play with them for a few minutes as a paired set, and we'll go back and quickly review everything that came before. I'll start working on some little variations, some off balance, loading, increasing his reaction where he jumps up like a jack-in-the-box. There's all kinds of things you can do with this once you kind of get the idea down of how to move and position and get the geometry down. Okay, so now I start exactly the same way, except let's make the assumption that I'm in play. My left hand is active. I want my left hand back here dead, like a dead mullet at the beach. So I want my hand active. So my hand may be active as I start this. It may be on top, which is what you just got through doing, my touch. But if my left hand is active and I come through and end up on the bottom, if I take my hand and grab his wrist, now I've got control and move and it breaks free. So what you got? Turn this one. Here, 1, 2. So now I want to open up because we're too close together and I can't really get a full use of this. Yeah, there's stuff you can do across like this. There's all kinds of entries for this. But in this case, what I want to learn to do is recognize the grip. I want to recognize he's got a hand here. And since I like wrist locks, I'm an Aikido guy, I'm an Aiki guy, I like wrist joint locks, I want to do a joint lock. So I move, and I take my hand, I brush across the top. And this is the kotegaeshi I get. Instead of koryu daigo kata, this is a standard Aikido grip, except it's backwards. You're used to seeing this as a standard kotegaeshi. You're used to seeing this as a shiro kotegaeshi. And this is gyattu kotegaeshi right here. Okay. It's a standard grip, but it's hard to get sometimes unless you recognize it, because it doesn't occur often. When it does, your mind, if you haven't seen it before, you kind of fumble around, you kind of get to here, and you try to immediately jump into this. That becomes problematic because if it's there and this hand is free, simply take it. Don't fumble for it by going to get to something you recognize. Recognize the unusual, which what we're trying to do is teach you the different grip recognition. So now do this for a few minutes. You move the same way. My hand comes under, palm up, and moving grip. I separate. The hand just comes over the top, and I pick this up. And I won't throw Dave, but this is a really fast throw because if I step into it and wind it up like this, he goes over really fast. It's a really dynamic way to throw. Or I can just do. All right, one time for Jack. Okay. And it's tight on his wrist. In fact, I heard his wrist crack a little bit. You okay?
Yep.
So if he wasn't loose after that chiropractic treatment, he will be. So, work on this a little bit, but we'll go slow. Just do the takedown. 1, 2, 3. You want to take him down, just have to sit down, just to get control. Okay. So work on that. You do the one on top. Do this for a few minutes. The one on top. My touch. The one on bottom. With the gauge. Work on those for a few minutes, and always be aware that you want to position next to him and recognize the grips and grab as late as you can. How does it? Anybody have any questions? Let's go back and review the first two grips, and then what I'd like everyone to do is do the first two grips, just to review them. And like I said, the past couple of days, start out by trying the big motion to get everything down. If you want to play with making a smaller motion, feel free to. But notice how even with the small motion, I'm square on the hand where both hands are in play, and I'm not close to his back hand. So whether I'm going to do the big one, I want to move to where the back hand is neutralized, and I can affect it with both hands. I can touch with both hands. Or the small motion. Backhand, both hands, his backhand is pretty much neutralized. So go back and look at that for a few minutes, And then I want to give you we're going to go back and look at some weighted variations where you load the guy up and you load him to the point to where you stimulate his muscles to pop him up, which really starts to get bizarre because you get a lot of aerobics out of him, so to speak, or not aerobics, but athletics. And it really starts to emphasize the control you can exhibit with this by picking the right moment in time to load and then let the pressure off, because it loads and it's bing! It's pretty amazing. So do the first two, just a few minutes. Play with this a couple times. And the other one's on. The other one's here. Work on those. Get them back in your head. Then we'll work on some loading techniques. You got some on? Let me give you all a clarification or two, or something that might help you. I've tried to make a large article out of the idea of this hand in the pushing position, but I'll talk about it again for a second. So when I come around, see how the hand's in this push position? So as I move around, I'm pushing on the back of his hand, and this hand also is in push position. If you're going to push a car down the street, if Dave was the car, and I walk up and I'm out of gas because I forgot to look at the gas tank this morning, and I'm going to push the car down the street, do I walk up the trunk with my hands like this and go, I'll break my fingers off. You can't push a 4,000-pound car like that. So your hands automatically, because we're people, and you adopt these things, automatically do this. So you can't push like this, but you can push like this. So if I want to come around and push on the back of his elbow and his hand, my hands have to be just like this and not like this. So yes, there are applications where the hands may be bent over. You know, remember, this is a pretty broad article. There's you're going to see all kinds of hand positions and stuff for different circumstances. But for the purpose of these drills, to recognize geometry and position and where everything is, as much as possible, try to have your hands in this pushing position, because if I'm here and this slips off and his hand goes free, I just took an elbow on the side of the head, especially if his hand's on the top like this, because it's got to be perfect. And there are circumstances where this applies, absolutely. But in this case, if you think about coming to here and pushing, if he lets go, see, I'm still pushing, still pushing, still pushing, still pushing. So it's pretty easy to do, but you have this. So let's look at a variation on this. If I start the motion and he locks me down because he's trying to hold me up, I'll drop my weight into him, I'm trying to step, he holds me up. Hold that more. Let him. Because if I move and break him down like this, then what's he got to do? Wrapped up. Let me do this left side, sorry about that. So I come to here, I want to load. See what I get? So what I'm doing is, if we're flowing and the timing is perfect, it's down, up, down, in terms of body timing. But if I grab him, he grabs me, and I load him, and use both hands. I try to move, and he loads me. So what I want to do is, I want to make him carry my weight. I want to start this step and make him carry all my weight. So if he's unstable, and I can tip him over in this direction, let me tip him in that direction. I tip him in that direction as part of the normal motion. He'll carry my weight. It will stagger him onto his left foot, which gives me time to come around to here. But if I start to move, and he locks me down entirely, and my weight's on my front foot, I simply shift the weight back. Because either he has to hold me up or push me down. He can't do both simultaneously. So I make him hold me up, shift the weight, and pressure comes off, and he just basically pulls himself up in the air. You get the technique anyway. It's a neat little trick. And one way I learned it was here. He grabs both hands. I just load him up, sit like this in the center like this. I go. It's like an Aiki Lesson, except it's more violent. Watch again. Load. Bend down. Tight. Load, and I drop my elbow. Load. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to make him carry my weight. And if he tries to pull me back, pull me back more. Carry my weight. Hold me up. See the reaction I get? Hold me up. That's the short motion version of this. So the way you learn the short motion is the big motion, carry my weight, move around. But if you go short, carry my weight. See how short that was? But he has to do that for me. Because if I jump into it and I go, oh, let's just do this arbitrarily, it won't work because he'll freeze me in place. I haven't loaded him yet. So I've got to make him carry my weight, load, and let him pull me up essentially. So play with that a little bit lightly. We're going to show some variations on this and how it can apply. But be light with it, otherwise you'll find yourself, like my example on Friday, bridge trolls. No bridge trolling today. Be light with it, experiment with it, carry the weight, come up to get a feel for it. Don't make it a violent thing because then you'll fail at it and you'll be disappointed. So be light with it, but try to play with it. How does it? Let me give you guys a little clarification here real quick. We're having a good discussion over here, a couple of real pertinent questions. I'm infamous for metaphors, so I'll try to have something that makes sense. Metaphorical check, how's that? Either, if David's grabbing me, now for the course of the normal release, I want to go horizontal. I'm trying to learn the timing. I'm trying to learn the angle of off balance. I'm trying to learn the positioning. I'm trying to be light, move around. I'm trying to come through, do the drill, understand the motion, the positioning. I'm trying to be light with it to get a feel and to build sensitivity to what he's doing. What I want to feel his body doing. I'm making all these motions. And if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator, you're like this all the time, stiff, you can't feel anything. You want to feel ounces. You want to feel little tiny pressures, which means you need to spend a long time, nice gentle movement, understand the position, just flow with it. So the loading drill we're talking about, when the attacker grabs you, he's doing one of two things. He grabs, and I'm floating my foot, I want to make the step. So he's doing one of two things. Either he's looking at you as a toilet plunger, and he's trying to jam you right down the pipes. He's pushing you down, which means that we'll slow. I grab you, he pushes down. That's what you get because he's shoving you into the floor. So the loading exercise we're doing, he's looking at you at luggage, like luggage at the airport. He wants to pick you up and carry you across the floor. So now I load, he tries to pick me up because he's trying to do this to me. So I start to move, he stops because he's picking me up and I just gently flow into it. So it built a reaction into him. So if you're okay, I want to try this drill for a couple more minutes and we'll go on the next variation. On the next piece of it. Look at it as you're not trying to plunge the guy through the floor. You're not trying to shove him down the pipes. If Dave does that, I just open up, let him kick me down. Now I've got this. Very simple to do because he's already pushed himself into the floor. So he wants to look at me as luggage. Start the motion, and everything becomes keys off of that. Because the exercise to learn the form, realize, is 1, 2, 3. That's to learn the form and the geometry and build a sense of what he's doing. This is what you'll probably get some form of in real life. You know, the guy does that. Because he's grabbing you, he feels you moving, he tries to jerk you up, and all you do is just kind of change your weight, change your foot pattern, watch my feet, and flow with him a little bit. Little tiny steps at this point is all you really need to really credit the guy. Because he's putting all the energy into the system. He's put all the work into it for you. All you do is go along for the ride. You're like the guy in the back of the taxi cab. Take me to the airport and carry my luggage. It's a good metaphor, I think. Take me to the airport and carry my luggage. Thank you. So work on this for a few minutes, please.
Where he kind of
Everybody kind of get a feel for that? I want to reemphasize something. I want to say this again and again and again. I'm a real big believer in the idea of do soft and repetitive practice over and over and over again. This loading piece right here, this is a drill to teach you some of the things that this idea of the big move is capable of. But I hope I don't get any emails or phone calls and get rid of the riot act because somebody went back to their home dojo and they said, Wilkenson Sensei said, grab me, just be a bridge troll. That's not what I'm saying at all. So I believe in the motion, be real nice, the motion of getting all these pieces down, softly, build the sensitivity, understand what my feet are doing, position yourself, get the motion down, get the hands correct, get the grip right, be loose with it, be flexible, Mass, as a conehead said on Saturday Night Live, consume mass quantities. I don't mean beer and potato chips, I mean mass quantities of slow, precise practice. And every once in a while, go back and do the loading and get a feel for this, for fun. But my main practice should always be some form of this, a big, big circle, or maybe a little smaller circle, but I'm still trying to keep everything correct, because you can't learn by being a power animal. It just ain't going to work, because at some point you get weak, so you got to build the skill and the timing and the expertise and the slowness and the precision, and that's what really builds a high quality player. That's the secret of everything, in my opinion. So every once in a while, play with the loading aspect, but always go back and work on the nice slow timing aspect, because that's where you really build your skill. Let's take a look at the second release motion, because we're doing this, and I was talking about break his posture this way, forward, perpendicular to his feet. Stepping off and pushing this way, and coming through, and picking up whatever the junction, whatever the grip is. So we're going here, move, my toes, coming to here, one, picking up, coup de gauche, this funny version of coup de gauche. So initially, we were working on the idea of I step and I break his posture over here, I break his balance forward this way. You can also do it this way. You can take a step and push his posture over the other foot. This stuff has lots of variations. Just because we're teaching this as the primary variation to get to the other techniques doesn't mean that you can't step this way and then come around and move. So I can break him. I'm not going to move my feet so you can get on top of that line so I can keep my blue tape with me. I can break him this way initially before I do the technique or the grip, or I can break him this way initially and then take him across and do the technique. It's just two explorations of off balance. This right here, this is not the only direction of off balance. Hop on a position. There's 8 directions primary. I can see 16 some days. My teacher said, his teacher told him in Japan he could see 32 and 64. I'm going, 64 directions of off balance. I can't even conceive that. But I can see 8 pretty clearly. So the one we did yesterday was this, break across, move into position, take the Maya toe, or come through, break the position over here to this side, take the coup de gauche. So now try it. There's a little variation where I start off by pushing to the outside. See, I rock him over. Now his weight's on the outside of his right foot. Now I step behind the arm and pick it up. Rock his foot over here. Now I step behind the arm and pick up the coup de gauche. So try that difference in off balance, because you can do all these things are very varietal, so to speak. You can do all kinds of directions. So now you've seen 2 for this, but the ending, the grip is still the same. So play with both of those a little bit. Break to the inside. Start by pushing the outside here, and then come through. Okay. All right, those are quick. Play with it. I got another good question. Let me point this out real quick. We want to try to work with our hands, both hands, as much as possible. Yes, there are techniques where one hand's going to be exactly the center, one will be off the side someplace. There's the stuff where it grabs my wrist behind my collar. So that stuff is out there in every Aikido system. Because Aikido is Aikido, in my opinion. It's just how you package it, in what boxes, and how you order or organize all the kata. But it's pretty much the same material. I mean, a wrist lock's a wrist lock, an elbow's an elbow, etc., etc. But as much as possible, you want to operate with your hands in a box that basically is from about your crotch height to just above your head, right here, and maybe your shoulder width a little bit wider, where both hands are inside this invisible box, because now both hands you can push, you can pull. So if I come to here on this variation we're doing off balance, and I stand here and do this, then I've just gone and don't move my body. I've just crossed my entire center line, and now when I come back, I maybe take a big step and do something like this, and now my arm's over here someplace. So look at this as more of a little. It's like the walking exercise in Aikido. I'm going 1, 2. I describe this little circle, but it's in my box. So that comes forward. 1, 2. There's a little circle. 1, 2. But my whole body's moving. I'm not going like this. I'm also not doing giant steps. I'm also not going 1, 2. You can. But I'm trying to be gentle and learn the precision, put him on that foot just a little bit. And if I've got to open up backward, it's okay. And then take him across, open up this way, and take the posture over there. So it's more of a subtlety thing. Yeah, you can do all this stuff like a bridge troll. I love that. I was watching the Hop the other night. You can come to here and right over here and do this, or make huge motions and big giant steps like this, and sometimes it's appropriate, but in this case, play with the off balance a little bit. 1, 2. It's like an S pattern. He comes forward, and 1, 2. See? I'm trying to rock him on his foot and pick him up on the flip side. I want to put him on the edge of his foot on the cliff, and we try to stop him something fall over. I want to put him over here. See? On the cliff. 1, 2. So try that for a couple of minutes, kind of get a feel for that. It's very light. You can move the entire body. Entire body does. Okay? High dose, please. Thank you, sir. We have about 10-15 minutes left in this session. This will be the end of it. I think Lowry Sensei has got some photography and things organized. I'm not sure exactly what's planned for 11:30 or so. So let me show the grips for the third set of grips. So you can kind of fix those in your head. Then I want to go back and practice the fourth set of grips with the release motion, because it's got the same snaky S pattern, except what the hand does is a little bit different. So on the third release, and just for discussion, you can do the luggage taxi cab trick with this also. Normally you do it slow, precise, you move in a position, do the release, 1, 2. It's the first one he pulls, he retracts back. They come 1, big circle, circle down, back. And through the hand turns over. Pick up foot of my wash. Nice and square to him. Always observe the geometry. 1, 2, 3, pick up 10, pick up good in there. Those are the grips off the third release. So remember, I don't know what Texas says, since they're bridge troll, so gentle and look at the precision, because to me, the power and the speed is much more important than learning to move and float. Body fall, body rise, body fall. I'm trying to be precise to stay square to him. If you have to, grab your sleeve. Because if you have a problem like I did when I first learned this, it seems like decades ago now, where I was going like this, I had to look up one day and said, how am I going to fix myself? So I fixed myself like this. I grabbed my sleeve and I made my left arm stay straight. It made me operate in the center of my body. It forced me to do it. So whatever mnemonic, whatever physical key you need to keep those principles right, then please use that and go slow and precise to build the practice of body rise, body fall. Get the timing synced, exactly the same thing. And remember, I hate to say this in a sense, but slow is fast and fast is slow. And there's an article that actually talks about that. I think I mentioned it Friday. So even though Nilo Sensei used to say all the time, it really is true. If you practice slow, then your mind can do it fast once everything is in play. So on the fourth set, we talked about stepping offline and again breaking him perpendicular to his feet to his front right corner on the outside. Coming to here, moving to the Mayatoshi. Coming to here, grasping underneath, moving into this funny Gyakute Kokugaishi. So even though we're breaking the posture in this first set this way, I can also do it this way initially. See how my hand's on the inside? If you can't see my right hand, position yourself, but my hand's on the inside. So I can move to the outside this way a little bit, and then move and bring it across. Body motion. When I first started 40 years ago, they had the 8 releases, had the 8 grips. And all the grips were, the grips were basically what we've been doing. That was 1, that was 2, that was 3, and this was 4. And those are the grips. And then they quit teaching those probably in the late 70s, if I remember right. Like you get Alzheimer's someday, I'm convinced. And they quit teaching because it's too complex and people were having trouble understanding the hand. Well, I always retained that because I always thought it was a great lesson, so I've kind of blown that up into this. So for here, instead of stepping offline and breaking across this way before coming back to take the Mayatoshi or the Kokugaishi, then initially break up to the inside and push him forward on that foot. and then move off maybe backward and angle a little bit, change your angle somewhat, and then come through. See this hand? I'll be real still with this hand. So, does this have a randori application? Sure, you push it in my face. Absolutely. All this stuff has randori application. If I can understand this, do it with my hand, then the randori application becomes easier because all I'm doing is parrying, circling across, and picking this up. Okay, so watch the release. So it's just a different way to look at the off balance. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3. A little bit different on the codification. So play with that for a few minutes until Laura Sensei bows everybody off, and we'll just take it from there. But thank you guys very much. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be here for the rest of the day mostly. Just kind of play with this stuff, but be light. Remember, no bridge trolls. Just be light, be gentle, learn the form, be precise. That'll make you a great player, I think. So, all right, high does it, please. Thank you very much.